If you want to join MBA at a top business school, probably you already know that you have to take the GMAT exam. The GMAT exam is most likely the hardest exam you'll ever take in your life. Over 90% of people who take the exam don't get top scores. That's how hard it is. But don't worry, in this video I'll show you all the fundamentals of the GMAT exam, and most importantly, I'll also give you free access to the first complete GMAT course on the whole internet. Okay, so just make sure you watch this video to the end. Before moving on, remember to subscribe to this channel if you like this type of content. Okay, we are putting out a lot of videos on these topics, and just to remind you, we have a free, full, complete TOEFL course. I'll leave the links in the description below. Okay, so now let's move on to the fundamentals of the GMAT. So we're going to start with the fundamentals of the GMAT. It's very important, it's essential that you first have a good understanding of how this exam works, of all the fundamentals, before starting with theory, for example. I know you're in a rush, you're hasty to go and try to get tricks for sentence correction, for grammar, for quantitative, etc. But before doing that, you first have to understand how this exam works, because believe me, the GMAT is not like any other exam you've taken in your life. Okay, it's got a different evaluation system, a different scoring system. It's got an algorithm that you have to understand. Otherwise, it's just like you're driving blindfolded. Okay, it's a recipe for failure. Okay, your preparation most likely won't give you the results that you are looking for. In my 12 years of experience tutoring people for the GMAT here at Libertas Prep, I've seen so many success stories, but I've also seen cases of failure. All right, I have really bright students from all over the world, all the way from India to Germany to Spain. But if you don't follow the steps, then you are not going to be able to optimize, to maximize your chances of getting the score that you want. Because the GMAT is a very tricky and sneaky exam, okay? So just make sure you understand the fundamentals. So what we're going to see in this video is this. So first we're going to go over the structure of the exam to see section by section what the exam is about. Now, when I introduce each section, I'll also give you the link to the free lesson, okay, for that section. And then we're going to go over the scoring system. Of course, we're going to talk about the GMAT being a CAT exam, an adaptive exam, okay, because that's very important for you to understand. Then we're going to go over some frequently asked questions that I get all the time when people are new to the GMAT, right? What's the recommended length for the preparation? What's the difference between the GMAT and the GRE? And what practice material you should use for your preparation. And at the end, we're going to close this video with examples. We're leaving timestamps on the video, so if you want to move to any particular section, just feel free to do so. So perfect, now we're going to start with the exam structure. The GMAT exam has 4 sections. The verbal and quantitative sections have an individual score range that goes from 6 to 51. The analytical writing assessment, or AWA section, is an essay that you must write in under 30 minutes. The score for this section goes from 0 to 6 in half-point intervals. The integrated reasoning section, or IR, has 12 questions, and the score goes from 1 to 8. This section will present different types of questions that mix verbal and quantitative knowledge. The biggest difference with the quant section is that the IR section is more analytical than operational, and furthermore, in this section you will be allowed to use a calculator. The global score goes from 300 to 800. However, a score of 700 has been considered the breaking point, which means that a 700 is a score that is good enough to get you accepted at most business schools. It is important to point out that the global score will only be calculated from the verbal and quantitative sections, not from the IR or the AWA. So now I want to stop and I want to talk a little bit about the scoring system here. So we've mentioned that there are 4 sections in the GMAT, right? We have the quantitative section, the verbal section, integrated reasoning, and the AWA, or analytical writing assessment. Now, the main global score comes only from two of those sections, right? From verbal and quantitative. And now that could suggest that the integrated reasoning section and the AWA section were not too important. That might have been true 6 years ago or 5, but lately the integrated reasoning section has become more and more important. Business schools are paying more and more attention to it. So you have to try to get the best possible score also on integrated reasoning. Now, a quick reminder, if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell. The verbal section contains 36 questions that must be answered in under 65 minutes. All questions are multiple choice. There are 3 types of questions in this section: sentence correction, critical reasoning, and reading comprehension. Perfect, so we're going to start seeing the verbal section. And the first question type we're going to see is the sentence correction. Okay, so here I'll leave a link for the free complete sentence correction lesson. Sentence correction exercises will show you a sentence, just like this one, with 5 alternatives. You must choose the option that provides the optimal writing, following all grammatical, logical, and idiomatic rules. The efficient time to answer a sentence correction question is 1 minute and a half. The second question type from the verbal section is critical reasoning. Here you have the link for the critical reasoning free lesson. Critical reasoning exercises will show an argument, such as this one, with 5 options. You must carefully read the question to know what to do. They can ask you to affect the argument in several ways, such as to weaken it, to strengthen it, or to find an assumption. The efficient time to answer one of these critical reasoning exercises is 2 minutes. The third question type for the GMAT verbal section is reading comprehension. Okay, so here you have the link for the free reading comprehension lesson. Reading comprehension exercises will contain an academic article with approximately 3 questions about that article. GMAT passages contain different topics, especially sciences and humanities. The level here is considerably higher than the one in the TOEFL or the IELTS. The efficient time to read the article and answer the 3 questions is 6 minutes. Perfect, so now we're going to see the quantitative section, math. So here you have the links for the lesson, the complete lesson for quantitative. The quantitative section contains 31 questions that you must answer in under 62 minutes. All the questions are multiple choice. The topics that will be asked are the following: arithmetic, system of equations, number properties, geometry, work and distance, statistics, probabilities and combinatorics. Knowledge on calculus or trigonometry is not necessary. There are 2 types of questions in this section. Content-wise, they are the same, but their format is very different. These 2 questions are problem-solving and data sufficiency. Problem-solving exercises will give you 5 options with actual values. You must arrive at the exact answer, or an approximation, to get the right answer. Data sufficiency exercises, on the other hand, will give you 2 pieces of data. You must answer whether either of the pieces is sufficient, or if both combined are sufficient, or if they are insufficient. It is not necessary to perform any operations or to get the exact answer, unless it helps you evaluate the sufficiency of the data. Now, just to talk a little bit about the scoring system, we've mentioned that the global score goes up to 800, 700 being a good enough score to get admitted, accepted at most business schools in the world. Okay, and now we've mentioned that that's a global score, but the verbal section and the quantitative section have individual scores that then they're going to be mixed, they're going to be calculated to give you the global score. So the individual scores for the verbal and quantitative sections go from 6 to 51. Okay, that's a little weird, right? 6 to 51. Now, don't get confused between percentile and scores. The percentile is basically how well you score compared to other test takers. And the score from 6 to 51, which is the real score, is the one that matters for you to get your global score. And now let's talk about the important part. How the GMAT will calculate your score. We have a full video covering the mechanics of the GMAT exam where we go over the algorithm, but just as a brief summary, I'm going to describe the main characteristic of the GMAT exam, which is the adaptive functionality. Okay, so the GMAT is a CAT exam, an adaptive test. So basically that means that the GMAT will graduate your level as the exam goes on. The way you respond, the way you give answers, right? If you respond correctly or incorrectly, the GMAT will calculate that and will give you a certain score. So as an example, let's say we are starting a section, either verbal or quantitative, and the GMAT will throw an initial question, all right? That question tends to be easy, but it could also be intermediate. So let's say you answer the question correctly, okay? Then you get another question that is a little bit more difficult, and you keep on answering correctly, they will give you a hard question, and so on, okay? If you fail one of those hard questions, they will downgrade the level a little bit. So they will give you something that's a little bit easier, okay? But your score will remain there if you keep on answering correctly, okay? So you'll probably get a high score. Now, on the other hand, if they give you the first initial question, which is easy or kind of intermediate, but then you start answering wrong, right? They will give you an easier question. Then you answer wrong again, they will give you an even easier question. And so at the end, they might give you very easy questions and you might answer them all right, but your score is going to be low. Why? Because whenever the exam tried to give you harder questions, you failed. Okay, so that's what being adaptive means. So it's not about the number of questions you answer correctly. It's not about the number, it's more about the level, the quality of the questions that you can answer. Again, we have a full video on the mechanics of the GMAT, on the algorithm of the GMAT. I'll leave the links in the description. It's important because you'll also learn some other things that are important. Okay, it's not only the adaptive functionality, that's the most obvious one, but there are other things that also make this exam different than others, so go and watch it. So the first question students ask us is how to take the GMAT, right? Where should I buy it? How many options I have to take it? How many modalities? So the first thing you do if you want to take the GMAT is you go create an account at the MBA.com website. Okay, they are the ones that administer the GMAT. Go create an account and register in order to take the test, right? You'll see that you have two options. You can take your exam at a testing center in your city, in your location, or you can take it at home. I would recommend that you take it at home. It's easier, it's better, that you have more control over your environment. You never know what's going on at a testing center, what new things you're gonna find. Okay, so if you have a stable internet connection, and if you can guarantee a noise-free environment, then just take it at home, okay? But you have those two options. So one of the main questions new students ask all the time is how long should the preparation take, all right? What's sufficient length of preparation? So we have a whole video on that. The link is in the description, how you should build your preparation, all right? What efficient preparation looks like, okay? But just as a brief summary, the best preparation is short and intense. Short and intense basically means that you want to study every day, right? I don't mean that you'll have to take classes every day, but you need to study every day. You need to constantly be refreshing your memory about the concepts in the GMAT, okay? Because those preparations that are spread out, normally that you study once a week maybe, they don't tend to give you good results, okay? So there are a lot of things that you need to memorize in the GMAT, formulas, rules, etc., etc. If you don't allocate enough time to study them, to memorize them, to know them off the top of your head, then you'll never get a high score. So it does require some time, maybe a couple months only. If you study every day, every single day for some hours, you have to sit down, study, kind of study the list, try to memorize them, etc. That's the best preparation. But again, we have a video on that, so go and watch it. So a question everybody asks, right? The GMAT versus the GRE, okay? Both are very important exams for master's programs. The GMAT is more specific. It's basically only for MBA programs, all right? And some finance-related programs, while the GRE is more generic. It's for several other careers, such as psychology, such as history, economics, etc. Okay, and lately it's being also accepted a lot for these finance and MBA programs. Now, both exams are good. We have a full video because each of them has their pros and their cons. So if you want to evaluate that more deeply, just go to our video. We'll leave the link in the description to see what's more convenient for you. Okay, but they're basically the same, okay? They will be equally accepted. Now, what you have to know though is that most people that will be competing with you, that will be also be applying to the schools you want to apply, will be taking the GMAT if you are looking for an MBA, right? So that's why I would be a little bit more inclined to take the GMAT. Now, one very important thing, let's talk about the practice material. What you're going to practice with. You have to make sure that you have good practice material to practice with. Otherwise, you won't be able to do your preparation. So, the first thing is we're going to divide this in 3 parts. The first part will be everything that is official from MBA.com. Second part would be everything that comes from other prep companies. And the third part would be the GMAT Club website, which most of you should already know. So let's first talk about the official sources. Now, it's something you have to understand if you're starting your preparation for the GMAT is nothing is better than the official source, okay? The same people that develop questions for the real exam are the ones who develop questions for these official sources from MBA.com, okay? So these official sources are divided in 2 groups. The first one is the official guides, and the second one is the GMAT Prep software. Now, the official guides are books, basically, right? That nowadays are released every year almost, on a yearly basis. But from year to year, they change very little. So they add very few new questions. So if you, for example, buy the 2018 edition, it's almost the same as the 2022 edition. So if you get your hands on the 2018 edition, second-hand 2018 edition, that's good enough, okay? So you might want to buy the 2018 and you might want to buy something a little bit more older, like the 12th edition from 2012, okay? That's a good one too. So those are books, and they come with 3 books. It's a package of 3 books. You have the official guide, and then you have individual books for verbal and quantitative, called the verbal review and the quantitative review, with more questions. So there you have tons of questions to practice with. This is really good material. So my advice would be, if you're planning on preparing for the GMAT, get your hands on these official guides. And the GMAT Prep software, or the GMAT Prep, those are basically exams and question packages you buy at MBA.com. That's the official website for the GMAT. In my opinion, this is the best tool you're going to have in your whole preparation, okay? There are 6 exams, 6 mock tests, 2 for free and 4 that you have to purchase, and they're worth it, okay? You need to buy them, okay? Those are 6 exams in total. The important thing is this: you need to take these exams when you are ready, not before, okay? We have a lot of people coming here, self-prepping at Liberty, and when they come, they are just beginning the preparation. They don't really know the theory. They don't know anything, basically. And they've already taken 3 or 4 exams from the GMAT Prep. And that's just sad, because the preparation is going downhill. It's going to be very difficult for these people to prepare adequately, okay? Why? Because this is the best tool. So now they're going to prepare without this tool because they've wasted these exams. These exams are no longer going to help them. So they only have maybe 2 or 3 left. And that's not the idea, okay? You want to take these exams when you're ready, which normally is towards the end of your preparation. Now, a second group of practice material that is not official would be those by some prep companies, right? So there are several prep companies in the market, and they will all try to sell you their material. Like in any market, some of them are of high quality and some others are of lower quality, okay? So that's something you gotta be careful with, especially if you're starting your preparation, okay? And you don't really know how to differentiate. You don't know the difference between a quality question and something that doesn't have a quality. That could be a little problematic, because, I mean, the worst thing you could do is to get hold or get your hands on a practice question, practice material that will end up confusing you or that is just plain wrong. So if you don't have the level to kind of distinguish between good and bad quality, then I'd recommend that you just stick to the official material. Okay, maybe towards the end of your preparation, when you are already kind of familiarized with the GMAT, when you have a high level, then you can distinguish between good and bad, and then you can buy material from these prep companies, okay? Because you're gonna know which ones are releasing quality material and which ones are not. Anyways, if you need material, if you need free questions, I'll leave a link in the description with 100 free GMAT questions, okay? Now, I vouch for the quality of this PDF, of this material, because I helped make it. So just go to the description and download it. Now, just a quick reminder, if you're finding this video useful, just click on the like button and share this video with your friends. And now a third group of practice material would be the GMAT Club website. Okay, I've already made a video on the GMAT Club. Okay, so go and watch it. In that video, you learn how to just build your whole preparation for free using only the GMAT Club website. Okay, and the GMAT Club is a hell of a tool. It's amazing. All right, it's the biggest database for the GMAT ever. They have compiled all these questions from different sources, different levels. Any question for the GMAT that you can think of will be in the GMAT Club. But here's the warning though, everything is not that easy, okay? If you are not a self-learner, okay, then the GMAT Club, which is a great tool, might not be the best option for you and may end up harming you more than helping you, okay? And I say this because the GMAT Club is like a superpower, right? If you're not prepared to receive that superpower, you'll end up dead, okay? I'm a little dramatic, right? But the thing is that, for example, if the GMAT Club is like an ocean, it's got a variety of different things from all the sources. So if you don't know how to swim through that ocean, you're gonna end up getting lost. Okay, that's the thing. So go watch my video on the GMAT Club, and if you're truly a self-learner, then the GMAT Club will work wonders for you. But if you're not, you'll end up getting confused, and you might even end up just acquiring bad habits, like a lot of people, right? Because the GMAT Club, they give you the answer really quickly. So some people just look for the answer and they think they're learning and they're not, okay? And also it's a forum, so you have to know how to distinguish between good advice and bad advice. So the warning has been set. The GMAT Club is a great tool, but not for everybody. Perfect, so now we're gonna see some real exercises from the verbal section. We're gonna start with sentence correction. Perfect, so before we start with the exercises, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video. Also give us a thumbs up if you found this video useful. Remember, we have tons of videos out there, and we also have a complete TOEFL course, okay? So you might wanna watch that one too. We'll leave the links in the description, and of course, we are putting out a complete and free GMAT course, and the links will also be in the description below. Additionally, if you want more content like this, follow us in our different social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Okay, now let's start with sentence correction. Here I have presented a sentence correction question to you. Normally in the exam you have 1.5 minutes to solve this question. Here just pause the video, read it, take your time, and then I will give you the answer. Perfect, so now I'm going to give you the answer. The answer here is letter B, as in boy, okay? Why? Because of several things, right? There are two main splits. So the first one is the main verb, have grown. That's wrong because the subject is market, right? And the word market is a singular noun. So have grown has a wrong verb number. Okay, so because of that, letter A and letter D are out. And then also you have a verb at the end, a verb that is inside a relative clause, right? That bring. That bring is incorrect because you want to talk about the market, and the market is a singular. It should have been that brings, but we don't have that option. Therefore, we're gonna say with B because B is also singular. That is bringing. Okay, so that's sentence correction. Sentence correction is a little tricky. Okay, don't you think that because you can speak conventional English, you are gonna do well with sentence correction, okay? Sentence correction is a very tricky section, and even natives have a problem with sentence correction, okay? Because there is a big difference between the way you speak and the way you write. This is professional writing. Therefore, you have to make sure you observe all the grammatical rules. Now we're gonna do some critical reasoning exercises. Now here you have a critical reasoning exercise, okay? This critical reasoning, read the question first, to know what to do, then read the argument, and then choose the best possible option, okay? And normally in the exam you would have 2 minutes to do one of this, but here, as this one might be your first time, just take all the time you want, okay? Just pause the video, and then I'm gonna give you the answer. Okay, so now you should be done by this time. I will give you the answer here. The answer is letter D, as in David. Why? Because this is a cause-effect relationship. So they are telling you something. The conclusion of the argument is that the antibodies cause the keratitis, and they ask us to support that cause-effect relationship. Therefore, we're going to choose something like D, right? No antibodies. So these rats, these mice actually didn't have the antibodies. They don't develop keratitis. So they are strengthening the situation, because if A causes B, then the absence of A, which is the cause, should yield to no B, right? If you don't have the cause, you shouldn't have the consequence. You shouldn't have the result. So that's what D establishes, and that's why that's a correct answer. Okay, it's a very basic logical argument that we are doing here. So critical reasoning does have some theory. Okay, as you see, it's important here your ability to read kind of quickly to be able to understand this passage, and then also your knowledge of theory of logical reasoning in order to come up with the answer. Finally, we're going to do some reading comprehension exercises. Now I'm going to present to you a reading comprehension passage. This reading comprehension passage, in the actual exam, you will have 4 minutes to read it, and then 1 to answer this question. So you could take up to 5 minutes. Why 4 minutes to read it? Because this one is kind of a longer passage. Okay, it's longer than usual, but the content, the difficulty level is kind of average for the GMAT. So just take your time, pause the video, take maybe 5 to 6 minutes to do this question on the GMAT. And this is something very important I want to point out, is that normally you don't hunt for answers, okay, like you do on the TOEFL or on the IELTS. What you do is you first have to read the whole passage in order to be able to answer the question, because if you only look for answers, that's going to be a little tricky, okay? And now remember, here I'm only giving you 1 question. On the actual exam, you have 3 questions associated with this passage, so it pays off to read the whole passage, okay? So just read the whole passage, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then take 1 minute to answer the question, okay? I'm going to give you the answer now. Pause the video. Now the answer here is C. Why? Because here they're asking you about something that's incorrect, something that's false, okay? So we have to be able to scan the whole argument, to scan the whole article to get to the answer. Letter C says species of plants that thrive in saline habitat require salt. And the author specifically in that section that we have highlighted mentions that it is not. I mean, they will dominate the saline regions, but not because they require salt. So letter C is false, and of course that's incorrect. Okay, so we are looking for something that's false. It could have been implied also, but in this case it was a little bit more textual, a little bit more literal. Okay, so that's the answer here, letter C. So with this, if you've done these 3 exercises with me, now you can have kind of a realistic expectation of the GMAT, right? And compare it to your own level. As we mentioned before, the level between the GMAT and the TOEFL or the IELTS is very different. Okay, the GMAT is an exam that is way harder. Okay, it's not the same thing. I don't care if you get a 105 on the TOEFL or if you get a band 8 on the IELTS. That does not guarantee that you'll perform well on the GMAT, because the GMAT is more technical. There's theory you have to remember. That's the thing. Now we're going to go to Quant. Now we're going to do some quantitative exercises. Get ready. So for Quant, I'm going to show you 2 exercises, one problem solving and the other one being data sufficiency. Okay, both exercises are kind of intermediate, kind of easy, not too difficult. Okay, so this is number 11. Okay, number 11 is here. So normally on the exam, you'll have 2 minutes to get the answer. Take your time. Okay, pause the video, maybe take up to 3 minutes and come up with the answer, okay? So pause the video now. Perfect, now I'm gonna give you the answer. Just remember, if you are liking this, then just don't forget to subscribe, okay? Subscribe and follow us in our social media, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. So now let's go to see the answer. The answer is letter E. Why? Because there's a very basic theory here, right? So whenever you have something that is a perfect square, it has a certain pattern of prime divisibility. So basically what we've done here is we've taken 1470, we have found the prime factorization, we got 2 times 3 times 5 times 7 square. Now something that is a perfect square basically has all the prime factors raised to an even exponent. That's the thing. So in order to have the right structure for this number, what we need to do is we need to multiply it by a 2 times a 3 times a 5. Because when we multiply 2 times 3 times 5 to the original number, then we'll get everything raised to an even exponent, right? We'll get 2 squared times 3 squared times 5 squared times 7 squared. That would be a perfect square. Okay, so the least number you can use in order to do that would be 30. 2 times 3 times 5. This one is some very easy theory of number properties and factorization. Here we have another example, okay, a data sufficiency exercise. So this one has to do with geometry. Take your time. Again, you have 2 minutes to do this. Remember, you don't need to get the exact answer, but you need to be able to respond whether the data, 2 pieces of information you see there, are enough to get to an answer. Okay, so go ahead, take 2 minutes, pause the video, and then I'll give you the answer. Okay, perfect. So now we are going to go to the answer. The answer is the first one. Data number 1 on its own is enough. Okay, only data number 1. Data number 2 is not enough. Data number 1 on its own, alone, is enough. Why? Because of this theory, right? First, we notice that let's divide this triangle in 2 parts. We can use the theory of the sum of the external angles to get that alpha right there. We've put something, that angle, that superior angle, as an alpha, right? Because that's an unknown. So we have x plus alpha is equals to 2x. That's the theory of exterior angles. Easy. Okay. Then alpha is equal to x. So that means that we have gotten that unknown. So alpha is equal to x. Then we know that that whole triangle of the left is an isosceles. We also know that the triangle on the right is an isosceles because it's got the same degree of angles, right? 2x, both of them. So we know that AD, segment AD or side AD, is the same as side BD, and that's the same as side BC. So the 3 are the same, and they are giving me side AD in data number 1. So as AD is the same as BC, we know what BC is. So we can answer the question, okay? Basically just using theory of sum of external angles and basic theory of triangle analysis, we have to know when we have an isosceles triangle. Okay, very basic theory. These ones are exercises that are not too hard. The GMAT does contain some questions that are crazy, okay, that are way harder, okay, especially if you want to aim at those scores way over 700. Okay, if you want to get a 730, 740, 750, then the questions we're going to get are way harder than this. So perfect, now you have a better understanding of the GMAT exam, okay? So I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, you have the free complete GMAT course, all right? Just go to the description, you'll find the links in there, and you can just you can build your whole preparation for free. Remember, we also have a free course for the TOEFL, so you might want to check that out. Okay, so that's been it with me. My name is Rod. I'm with Liberty. Thank you for watching.